Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher. Mike, it is our time to shine. Football season, goodbye. It's basketball time, baby. So welcome everybody that's coming in to watch a little NBA hoops, play a little NBA DFS, maybe bet some props, get your action going as you wait for the next NFL season. We are here Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern, each and every day, breaking down the injury report. Now, this week, we'll only be here Monday through Thursday because the NBA has so smartly timed their All-Star break to be right after the end of football, which is so bad. I mean, it's great for me, for like content.
Yeah, I love it.
But like, what are they doing here? Why do you get off of football and you take 4 days off? Like, schedule the All-Star break before football ends.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I don't care. I don't think about anybody else but myself and you.
All-Star week. I think they should have had All-Star weekend during the same weekend as the Pro Bowl. That's when I think they should have had All-Star weekend. But
that'd been cool.
Just me. All right. We have 9 games on the slate today. We have most of the teams have started to integrate their new players that they've acquired via trades. So we're out of like health and safety protocol season. So Mike, for the first time in a long time, I feel like it's just straight injuries.
Yeah,
this is what the show is meant to be.
Yeah, I'm in the kitchen, man. We have to cook up some hot injury stuff. I'm, in a hotel room in Orange County right now, trying to live my best life. But yeah, we got some injury notes here, man. A lot of ankles, a lot of bad questionable tags. Man, that Giannis doubt probable tag, man, like that was the easiest thing to see ever. Actually noted in matchups. I said that they're about to turn a P to a O, like Avon Barksdale's crew from The Wire, because you sell your drugs, you get a pound of it, you sell it, you don't got an ounce left. So it was a drug reference. But yeah, I'm
sure the people will love it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
As always, plenty of people will love it, and a few people will hate it. That you're ruining America's youth with your drug references. I'm sure.
Yeah, got to. I mean, Snoop Dogg smoked before the Super Bowl yesterday, obviously, and drugs are ruining America. But anyways.
All right. Let's start with the injury. Let's start with Giannis. I think it's the biggest news on the slate. Giannis is doubtful in a matchup here against Portland. The Bucks are thin. They've like started to lose players left and right here. Pat Connaughton is going to be out for a while with the wrist injury. George Hill is still out with neck soreness. Brook Lopez is still nowhere near returning with back surgery. So they traded away Dante DiVincenzo. So like a team that was very deep on the wings and was like trying to fill out all this playing time between Wes Matthews and Connaughton and DiVincenzo and Grayson Allen. Now it's kind of down to, you remove Giannis as well. Now it's kind of down to, Grayson Allen and Wes Matthews as the wings, right? You've got Middleton, who will slide up to cover some more 4 minutes, but they actually have a lot of guys who could play the 4 and the 5. So this is an interesting thing where they just acquired Serge Ibaka, and does now Serge Ibaka play the 4 or the 5 alongside Bobby Portis, and Bobby Portis play the 4? Obviously, we're used to the Bucks playing what you might deem smaller lineups, just because it's like Giannis at the 5 and he's not a traditional 5, but they're very big because Giannis is just a giant human being. Mm-hmm. So do you expect them to play into their size in a matchup against Portland, a team that doesn't have a ton of size? How do you think the Bucks handle the loss of Giannis today from a rotation standpoint? We know from a DFS perspective, Middleton and Drew Holiday and Portis have all been great in these scenarios without Giannis. But from a rotation secondary player's perspective, how do you think Milwaukee handles things today?
Yeah, it's the easy part of this is Drew and Middleton are going to smash. But yeah, like you said, the question is like, do you feel comfortable playing Serge and Portis together? I think the answer is yes. I think that they can both space the floor. Serge is more the classic rim protector that Portis isn't, so they have a pretty good fit. So I think that's something to watch. Greg Monroe will still get his minutes. If they don't lead into that, maybe they don't want to up Serge's minutes. I mean, Serge has like never played high 20s, so I doubt he plays mid 20s in the spot in his first game. But yeah, I mean, Noir could be interesting. I think that there's a chance Noir starts. Mentioned the lack of size. Like their support is going to be Justice Winslow, Josh Hart, obviously at the 2-3. Interesting to note too. On the flip side, this is an injury, but Chauncey Billups said that Hart's a 2-3, not a 4 at all. So that's great for Winslow. But yeah, I expect the front court guys to pick up some pretty good run. Obviously, Portis is a pretty good matchup too.
Yeah, and you just look at the roster there in the reserves from last game. Mamakelishvili, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, Jordan Nwora, Greg Monroe. You add in Serge Ibaka. Those are all 4s and 5s. Thanasis and Nwora could play the 3 in a pinch, but I don't think that's really like their primary position from a value perspective. So there's a lot of depth on the roster that's in this front court, which I imagine means that you're going to have Chris Middleton, kind of stay put as a 2-3. And we just talked about kind of the lack of wing depth with, basically being down to Grayson Allen, Wes Matthews, and then Lindell Wigginton. That's kind of the wing depth here. So I think this is a spot where you could see a lot of minutes for Middleton and Drew, as long as the game is competitive, and really, really big upside. Portis is a little bit more of a question mark just because I think the minutes will be there, but will the role be stretch out 4 instead of 5, who gets all the rebounding advantages that we saw earlier in the year? So a little bit more hesitant on Portis than I am the other two big Milwaukee guys tonight.
And Grayson Allen's minutes should be pretty good.
Should be really good.
Yeah, not having Connaughton, that's kind of huge for him, obviously. The trades you mentioned too. So he should, in a good matchup, he'll probably see a lot of Ant Simons on the other side. So I do kind of like him a little bit today.
Yeah. All right. Other big questionables on the slate. Rudy Gobert, still on the injury report, still questionable. Will we see Rudy Gobert tonight for the Jazz?
I think so. He's got a pretty good chance to return. It wasn't really all that close, but went through shoot arounds, so that's a good sign. So I think we mentioned last week that last Monday a week ago was their goal to get him back out there. So a week later, got to feel pretty good about his chances today.
Yeah, I hope so. The other question mark I have at this point is just like, you're so close to the All-Star break, with these guys that are questionable tags. Do you think just generally, we see teams lean more towards getting guys the rest and not trying to push something when you have a lot of built-in time off? Or do you think the built-in time off, knowing it's there, gives teams a little bit more reason to kind of roll the dice and just see where the player is at and get some live, in-game action to evaluate the health? Do you think it changes the nature of questionable tags as we get closer to the All-Star deadline?
Yeah, I think it's a case-by-case basis. Like, for instance, Zach LaVine's probably the poster child here. He's out now, so that one's obviously easy to see. But another one that's kind of lower key as a questionable tag is Luke Kennard. He was playing through an ankle, according to Ty Lue. Team got the questionable tag. We'll talk about him in a second. But, yeah, to your point, definitely think those questionable tags are, something that it depends. Again, it kind of depends on the Minnesota questionables. That'll be taken differently. But, yeah, I definitely think that there's a little bit more stock in those questionable tags now.
All right. Knicks, lots of ankle injuries. Cam Reddish, Nerlens Noel, Mitch Robinson. So it's a lot of front court depth there for the Knicks. What are your expectations in terms of who's available tonight going up against the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Alexei Pokusevski show?
Yeah. Rich Rob turned his, no update from Tibbs. Cam Reddish turned his, no update from Tibbs. So we know Mitch, they are usually pretty cautious. So I would think he's got a pretty good chance to miss. Man, if Nerlens Noel can't go, they're going to have to really lean into Taj. Worth noting that Tibbs said after the game that the Jericho Sims minutes were terrible. So, I think they're going to try to go without that, which could be something worth, maybe more Obi. I don't think you would go there, but it would make Julius Randle, a 5, a rebound a little bit better. He's had pretty good minutes the last couple of years when he's a 5 too. So I'd probably expect him to go that way if everyone's out.
Yeah, it's a situation where look, if Noel and Mitch are out, you're going to see a decent bit of Taj whenever we get to these spots. The question is how much they get into the Julius Randle and Obi Toppin minutes benefiting from those guys as well. Oklahoma City plays very small though, so we'll see how that all works out. It's not a bad spot to be able to lose some of that front court depth in this matchup itself. And then Reddish would just be another wing body right there without RJ Barrett. So if you removed another wing body, it just might necessarily force more Taj Gibson center minutes to keep Randall and Toppin at the 4 because you can't cover those minutes in other ways. So there's a couple different avenues here for guys like Toppin. And this is an interest, not a bad spot. It's a big slate, so, maybe not primary value that you need, but these guys could get into the MME pool if everybody sits tonight. Yeah,
the Thunder allow a lot of 3-pointers. They limit efficiency on them, but they allow a lot. So, yeah, definitely, Quentin Grimes, you saw him get good minutes. I think Gary just mentioned he's min, so he definitely a guy that I'd be looking at if these guys are out.
Yeah, 37 minutes last game for Quentin Grimes in a big effort. And as anybody who is close to the Knicks fans know, Quentin Grimes, future Hall of Famer, is only 3K, so you got to get in while you can. Other injury situations to pay attention to. Brooklyn tonight, James Johnson is questionable. And look, Brooklyn is a home underdog to the Sacramento Kings. How the mighty have fallen. Obviously, temporary situation with no Kevin Durant, no Kyrie Irving because it's a home game, and no Ben Simmons because who knows when Ben Simmons is going to choose to play basketball again. They are without Joe Harris as well. James Johnson questionable here on the injury report. What are your expectations for him? Brooklyn's one of the rare teams. They actually have 3 games before the All-Star break here, so they are still playing kind of a pretty condensed schedule on the whole.
Yeah, man, look at this. This is nuts. Like all those L's, man. The Mayweather L gif. I think James Johnson might sit. Like the ankle injury is pretty legit. Like generally they're pretty shady with the Qs. We've seen Claxton get a lot of Qs and not play. Claxton off the injury report. But I don't think they really need him anymore. Now that they got, Andre Drummond and Seth Curry, they can kind of run things differently and put in Kessler in different spots rather than making more of a 4. So I think they're kind of okay there. But yeah, I think Drummond really hits the ground running here. It'll be interesting to see with LaMarcus and the Claxton off how much they lean into Drummond because they're just playing so poorly right now. So I think it's a pretty good spot for him. And James Johnson not playing would even help that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's the big news here is that they're going to get Seth Curry and Andre Drummond here. So, from a backcourt perspective, they should still be able to have Seth Curry, Patty Mills, and then Cam Thomas, who's been exceptional during the losing streak. Cam Thomas has really played quite well. Those 3 handle the bulk of the backcourt minutes, can even play all 3 of them together because they've shown a willingness to play. Cam Thomas is a 3 a little bit as well, and certainly could in this matchup against Sacramento. And then, the front court, it's just like, do we get Drummond unleashed? Because from a DFS perspective, that's the big question mark. The matchup itself is fine against Sacramento. It's awesome. It's hard to evaluate these matchups during the course of the season as personnel changes, but Sabonis is not a guy that I'd be worried on the interior very much in terms of contesting with Drummond's rebounding or limiting Drummond on the offensive glass. Sabonis is, maybe he can draw, some fouls on you or whatever, but it should also keep Drummond out there, I would think. Mm-hmm. Between him and Claxton, some like true center minutes, if they are, intent on playing Claxton, which, has been the case, but we'll see. So I think it's a tough situation to project because we haven't seen it, and Steve Nash's rotations are so volatile, but a lot of upside for Andre Drummond tonight, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, Blake's been getting wrecked. They keep playing him because they have to. So I'd be curious to see if he goes away entirely because the minutes with him out there have been so bad. Yeah.
And we've seen that happen at different times this year, right? Like Blake Griffin was pulled from the rotation earlier in the year, so it's not unlikely that it could happen again. Okay. Other injury situations. We touched on Luke Kennard really quickly. Javonte Green for the Bulls. No Zach LaVine. Obviously.
Well, do you want to hit like the fallout if Kennard can't go?
Yeah, we can go through it. I think the thing with the Clippers is it's always just so tough to pin down like what the fallout really is. But we know that Norm Powell is out for a while, fractured foot. So Luke Kennard would be some depth issues on the wings. Last game against Dallas, and I was tilting this big time because we took a Reggie Jackson under on the assists. We only had Reggie Jackson projected for 28.5 minutes, so we missed badly on that minutes projection. I think we got up to 29.5 on the Norm Powell news. But basically what happened is without Norm Powell, they needed to cover more wing minutes, and they had Terrence Mann playing as a wing instead of backup guard. So basically instead of the backup point guard where he was holding Reggie's minutes down because they were having a hard time finding the minutes, when you took out Powell from the rotation, they had plenty of minutes. You take out Kennard, they have plenty of minutes to give to Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris, Amir Coffey. Mm-hmm. These guys, because they seem to be looking at Robert Covington, a little bit more as a 5 almost, like as like a backup 4 or 5 than like a starting 4. And his minutes came way down. So different matchup tonight against Golden State, a little bit different. But what are your thoughts on how things would shake up if Kennard is unable to go?
Yeah, just before I hit that, like shout out to Ty Lue, man. Like this dude throws Zubats and Hartenstein out against Luka. Like my God, that guy he's so good. But yeah, I think that they would bring Brandon Boston in. That'd probably be the fix. More of a floor spacer. Minutes wouldn't get outrageous, but yeah, the headline would be, you're really weakening that second unit, which Kennard has been a huge factor for. So by watering down that second unit, you're making the first unit stronger. So that gives guys like Reggie Jackson longer leashes, Zubats as well. Terrence Mann will get the Steph matchup tonight. I think he could do, it's kind of a bad matchup for him, but I think his minutes can be really, really good. Not having Kennard behind him if Kennard can't go. And yeah, it sounded like Kennard may be unlikely to go based on loose comments here.
Yeah, pretty excited for the Terrence Mann experience. He's played well against Golden State in the past too. So
I'm actually considering going to this game, to be honest. So we'll see. That sounds super fun. A little Terrence Mann night. Little can never turn down Steph when Steph's anywhere close to where you're at.
You got to. All right, Javonte Green for the Bulls. Bulls without Zach LaVine, man, they are getting really, really thin. We saw Troy Brown put up a very, very epic Tony Snell-esque line over the weekend, 28 minutes, zeros across the board for Troy Brown. It's been a tough year for Troy Brown for sure. They did get Derrick Jones Jr. back last game, and he's probable this game, so they were able to get him out there for 23 minutes, which I think was kind of a big deal. But you look at that box score, and man, you can just see the Bulls don't have confidence in many guys, right? Because DeRozan 40, Kobe White 37, Dosunmu 42, Vucevic 36. This was all to beat the shorthanded Thunder. So they get the Spurs, who've been playing really well since the trade deadline. It'll be interesting again, but if they don't have Javonte Green, man, do the minutes get condensed once again?
Yeah, he couldn't walk properly, according to Billy Donovan over the weekend. So I think he's sitting not great, Bob. You mentioned the Troy Brown minutes were terrible. Yeah, Derrick Jones Jr. is playing through pain. Billy Donovan says it's not, quote, crazy pain, but he's feeling it. And he gave him a lot of credit for, beating his timetable just because they basically found out Javonte couldn't play, and they was okay. Derrick, could you play? He's like, yeah, I'll play. So yeah, I expect Derrick. I mean, he probably starts just because those Troy minutes are so bad. And I think a defender like Derrick Jones Jr. is someone you want to put on DeJounte and just let his defensive metrics get wrecked because DeJounte's going to light him up.
Oh, but, I think it's Dosunmu.
You think? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Derrick Jones would be on Keldon. In that
you're right.
They just don't have another body that they would want to throw size-wise at Keldon. You don't want to put that on DeMar. So yeah, that would be my expectation.
Yeah, got ahead of myself on that. But Ayo got ripped up the last time they put DeJounte on him.
DeJounte's killing everybody, man.
DeJounte's killing, yeah. Herb Jones, DeAndre Hunter, two people who he's just killing everybody. So yeah, definitely think Derrick Jones Jr. Possibly in play, and the Spurs play fast. It's suited to his style. So he maybe a punt. It would be pretty low ceiling though. So probably just gonna ignore it and just.
The thing that is if you run into the right situation with the Bulls, they'll just let you play forever, right? So you do know that I don't know where his health is, but if Troy Brown Jr. Was making shots or whatever, they could let him go 35, 36. I mean, they just don't have trust in these other guys, Tyler Cook, Tony Bradley. I mean, Malcolm Hill getting 16 minutes, Matt Thomas getting 14 minutes. These guys were not supposed to be playing this year.
Yeah.
So it's a situation with the Bulls where you could see really, really condensed rotations once again.
Yep.
Okay. Other situations to talk through: Denver, Monte Morris and Zeke Naji. What are your expectations on their availability for Denver tonight in a home matchup against Orlando? That is, the beginning of a softer schedule for the Denver Nuggets on the whole. A lot more home games down the stretch than road games, and about 60% of the games are against teams with a winning percentage below 45% from here on out. So this is the opportunity for Denver to start to put a run together. Zeke Naji, Monte Morris, do we expect to see them tonight?
Yeah, not sure. Hamstring tightness, always concerning. Definitely feels like a situation where you just sit him out to the break, in my opinion. Concussions, another one you can't really pinpoint, so we don't really have much information there. But yeah, getting the Q tag, I feel like generally concussion Q tags turn out to be good. So I think he's got a chance to return. Obviously, that would bump Bones Highland to the bench and then pretty much knock Austin Rivers out. I'm sorry, Facu Campazzo almost out of the rotation there.
It could be Rivers, though, because you had noted that Rivers has been battling a hip injury. And it could be just – I think in these scenarios they like Rivers more than Campazzo. But there could be an element of Rivers is trying to get through something that they just choose to go with Campazzo. I think it'll be a little bit variant back there in the very backup guard minutes.
Yeah, I don't think they're really going to want to play Bones and Facu together, though, right? And I feel like that's kind of funky.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, either way, it's not really fantasy relevant. But
Yeah,
it would just take, and then a great matchup though, which is, if Monte did sit, I think Bones, who's been a little disappointing in the starting lineup, but tough matchups here. Boston, outstanding defense. Raptors are really good against guards. So if Bones is starting, I think he's a guy I could look at today.
Yeah. We did see the offense run a little bit more through Jeff Green and Aaron Gordon as well. And kind of, I think it's been more matchup driven than anything with Will Barton, but the usage just hasn't benefited for Barton as much with Monte Morris out. And I think that's more just matchup driven than anything else. In terms of the other thing about that was when Najee was removed from the rotation, Jeff Green's minute ceiling got way higher. Now Jeff Green played well to earn those minutes as well, but I think basically that they've been trying to find minutes for Zeke Najee just to get him out there, and also trying to find minutes for JaMychal Green. And so he's been squeezing kind of everybody in that front court a little bit. And so if he were unable to go, I think Jeff Green would be a beneficiary in terms of minutes expectation as well.
Just if you could see this, just have to share this thing. Like, did you see this when giving out the award and he plays just takes the player of the game chain? So good.
Yeah. Jokic just brings smiles to everybody around him, except the NBA fans. Some other small questionables on the slate. Jeremy Lamb, I think that's an interesting one for Sacramento, just because we have seen Brooklyn's been very beatable, obviously, in this 11-game losing streak in terms of being able to pile stuff up. And just any added or any lost guard depth for Sacramento makes things just a little bit more interesting there. We've seen, last time without Jeremy Lamb, with Dante DiVincenzo got up to like 20 minutes. Davion Mitchell was hurt a little bit in terms of the minutes upside there. They played Justin Holiday 30 minutes. They seem to be in love with playing Mo Harkless again, which has been a weird kind of resurrection of his playing time. But we saw kind of a straight 9-man that was like very straightforward last game, and that was without Jeremy Lamb. If Jeremy Lamb did return, I think things get a little bit funkier in the backcourt, and just a little bit harder to project where the minutes could go, because I think it could be a little bit hot-handy.
Yeah, definitely a matchup where they could go smaller too, right? You really aren't going to need Mo Harkless because there's really no good power forward / small forward out there for them to guard. So they don't throw Mo Harkless on guard. So I wouldn't be surprised if Harkless gets demoted in the spot and they go Harry B at the 4. That way you get a little bit more minutes.
Who do you think would slide into the starting rotation in that spot? DiVincenzo?
It might be DiVincenzo or Davion. Put Davion on Patty Mills and kind of go that way. But I would not be surprised if there's a lineup change there. Because you do not need him at all. That's how bad the Nets are right now.
Yeah. In terms of players that are returning, while we're talking about the Kings, we can talk about Marvin Bagley coming into the situation in Detroit. Now, Detroit's without Frank Jackson tonight, so they still have some minutes open to kind of fit these players. But the front court's interesting. We've seen Isaiah Stewart playing more minutes of late, but we've also seen that with Kelly Olynyk back, and now with Marvin Bagley in the mix. The other guy that has benefited when Cade was out was Hamidou Diallo. He played a decent bit last game, but that was once again like blowout related. So how does what do you think things look like in the front court for Detroit? Because we've seen like Stewart, Bay, Jeremy Grant, Diallo, Olynyk. Now they add Bagley. Like these guys are all like 3 through 5 guys, and they're missing a 2 in Frank Jackson. So do you think we see like Sadiq Bey and Jeremy Grant slide down to the 2-3, continue to open up playing time for Hamidou Diallo, and then this afford the way to open up some playing time for Marvin Bagley? Because I got to think they're looking at this last 25 games or so as a full-blown like tryout and evaluation for Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, you nailed it. They'll just play everyone bigger to go with, because they play Hami pretty much 2 through 4. Yeah. So the last game they made him more of a 3-4. They'll make him more of a 2-3. They've obviously started him there when Cade was out too. So yeah, pretty clean. I think you just put him basically in Frank Jackson's spot. Then it should be pretty good. I don't think they're going to go to center minutes for Bagley, at least out of the gate. So it shouldn't be too many minutes. He's obviously backing up, 2 pretty good forwards. He'll mostly likely probably at most like get the non-Grant 4s. I can't imagine he gets much more than that though.
So what do you think? So you're thinking like 15 minutes for Bagley? Is that what you're thinking?
Probably like 16, 17.
Okay.
I think he should be pretty good piece in there.
Yeah, we should probably cut him down a little bit. I was thinking more like 20.
Okay, yeah, I
But
don't think it's
that
an
would
overlap with Grant
require
though.
them really sliding down Sadiq and Grant a little bit. I think they can do it tonight without Frank Jackson. I don't know if they can do it long term. But I gotta think prioritizing just getting a look at Bagley is going to be one of their things because they went out of their way to trade for him at the deadline. I know it's like a free, cost him Josh Jackson and Trey Lyles, so like why not take the shot? But I gotta think that that's a priority for them is just to get an evaluation on him.
Maybe if there's Stewart foul trouble too, that could be. So yeah, I guess
that's
maybe
the other thing
18,
is
19.
Stewart has seen his minutes get into the low 30s of late, and I just am very skeptical that can maintain. He's a guy that's averaging like 25 on the season, so I wouldn't be surprised to see something where like Stewart plays like 24 to 26 a night, Kelly Olynyk plays like 18 to 22 a night. Then there's like 2 to 4 like leftover center minutes they can leave Bagley, and then the backup 4 minutes, which there's a lot of backup 4 minutes tonight if they slide guys down. There won't be normally if they have kind of everybody in the rotation that they're trying to get a look at, unless they cut out like Corey Joseph or something like that down the road, which I could see them doing as well. Okay. Other returns tonight, Zach Collins back for San Antonio. That's useful. Jock Landale played well last game, but they really want to get looks at Zach Collins, much like Detroit with Marvin Bagley. This is a player that they invested in the offseason to rehab and bring back. So it'll be interesting to see, if he goes right back to that like 16 to 20 kind of minute role. Decreases the upside slightly for Jakob Poeltl, but I don't really think it changes much there. Any other thoughts on Zach Collins?
No, you pretty much nailed it. A little bit of upside hit to Jakob Poeltl. We saw Collins take a couple late minutes away from him. Like I want to say two games ago. So definitely. Pretty much not much else to take away from that.
Yeah, and Keita Bates-Diop questionable there for San Antonio as well. We saw Devontae Cacok play a little bit last game. I think that's strictly due to the lack of depth kind of on the 4-5. I don't think Keita Bates-Diop has a big role right now, so I don't think it makes a big difference. But when you're projecting things, just a little bit more squeeze on the secondary backup guys. And we've seen a lot of volatility on the secondary backup guys, right? Lonnie Walker went from like 14 minutes to 30 minutes. Primo went from 25 or 28, something like that, to 15. So I think there's going to be a lot of hot hand stuff with the reserves. But the starters look pretty locked in. I mean, Keldon's minutes have been really good. Vassell's minutes have been really good. DeJounte and Poeltl. And McDermott's always going to be that mid-20s. There's not going to be a lot of variance to McDermott's minutes. So I think San Antonio's fairly straightforward these days. Last new return, Eric Gordon survived the trade deadline back in Houston. Houston also gets Dennis Schroeder, they acquired at the trade deadline. So some increased guard depth. Matchup against Utah tonight. If Rudy Gobert returns, probably not the best spot, one that would come with plenty of blowout risk. But how do you see this guard rotation shaking out with Schroeder in the mix? And what do you think it does for Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. from an upside perspective? Does this really kind of curtail those upper 30 minutes, 30s minutes nights for them?
I don't think that much. Definitely a little bit more concerned for Jalen Green than I do for Kevin Porter Jr. It's worth noting that Steven Silas said they're going to just play Josh Christopher off the ball now. They were kind of doing a little bit of a mixture. And they were running, they actually were prioritizing Green getting ball handling. We saw an early sub from KJ Martin to bring Jalen Green more into the second unit, which they weren't really doing. Sure, part of that was because they didn't have depth with so many guys out, but that's something that was interesting. But I'm not overly concerned. It's a bad matchup here, so probably not going to go there. But I don't think Schroeder's going to. And it's also worth noting too that now that you put Schroeder in there, you're going to have to play smaller, right? So we may not see as much of that Şengün overlap with Christian Wood.
Oh, I think that's out for sure. I mean, I think right now I was just thinking through their rotation. Wood is the starting center. Şengün's the backup center. I don't think there's any other center minutes there. Jayshawn Tate, the starting 4. Kenyon Martin Jr., the backup 4. And then you start to get into the 3 spot, and now you've got Eric Gordon basically is the starting 3. Garrison Matthews is the backup 3. Jalen Green is the starting 2. Josh Christopher is the backup 2. And then you've got Dennis Schroeder as the backup to Kevin Porter Jr. That's a 10-man rotation. That's pretty straightforward. But 10-man rotations often limit the high 30s upside for guys. Those usually come in the 9s and the 8-man rotations. So I think we might see a period where like Jalen Green starts to go down to like 30 minutes a game because they want to get looks at these other guys if they're going to play Schroeder. I don't think they necessarily want to get a look at from Schroeder. They've had a lot of positive comments about him. But like Jalen Green, they definitely want to get a look at. Christopher, they definitely want to get a look at. KPJ, they definitely want to get a look at. So is Dennis Schroeder going to be cool playing like 15 minutes a night. I don't know.
No.
Like it was a weird acquisition from that standpoint. So I'm interested to see that. I'm a little bit nervous and hesitant on some of the primary guards for Houston now. I think the minutes are going to be the minutes upside is going to be cut out a little bit from underneath them. And then in terms of new outs, no Kyrie because it's a home game for Brooklyn. No Kyrie throughout the All-Star break. One road game, but it's against the Knicks, so you can't play in that one. So 3 games without Kyrie before the All-Star break. Kind of talk through that one. And then your boy, no Lou Dort. He knows you're out of town. He knows you're contemplating going to see a different game. So he's taking the night off. How are you coping without Lou Dort?
Tilt, man. I was in a cover boy, man. I was like so pumped for Lou Dort today. But shoulder injury. Dream was a dream matchup. The Knicks are allowing 43% of shots from 3. They are just getting killed from behind the long line. So I think that it's pretty straightforward. We know that the Dort's defense is pretty easily going to be replaced as far as role goes by Aaron Wiggins. They really like him for ball pressure, so I'd expect him to start. But you're taking away what was almost a 30 usage rate in each of his last 4 games, 28.6. He only topped that number once in his previous 47 games. So you're really, really adding a lot of usage here. So Josh Giddey's upside is a lot higher. Darius Bazley's minutes are really secure. His offensive role is going to really grow here. Even Trey Mann will get a little bit more minutes. We've seen Pokusevski play some pretty good minutes. I expect him to tick up a little bit more as Bazley's plays more of a straight 4. Same with Cambridge. So I think there's some minutes there for Pokusevski as well. But it's crazy. Like losing Lou Dort's offense really adds a ton of upside to a lot of these perimeter players for the Thunder.
Yeah, one thing I'd also note there is they had made that comment about wanting to keep Giddey around 30 minutes. He played 24 minutes on the front end of the back-to-back, and then they went to 33 the next night. So I don't know if it's going to be kind of like an average of 30 minutes, and they're going to keep
he's not going to have a hard cap. So they're going to – if he's like playing well, they'll let him go. So I mean, he should be playing well. So I think I'd probably put him at like 32 or 31. I think he's got a better shot to beat that.
Okay, good to know because that was something that over the weekend I think we had him at 29 and ended up under projecting a big Giddey performance against the Bulls. The props markets were pretty soft on him, which made me think they were taking the comments in like really seriously that he was going to have a hard cap because then he played 24 like the next game and you're like, oh boy. So that
was just they got blown out.
No, I know, but he had been playing into blowouts. Getting up to like 34, 37. So. Good to know that the commentary there will still allow some upside into the low 30s because, I mean, as you can see with Giddey, he can pile them up real quick, and that should be the case again without Dort. And Bazley's been playing very, very well of late. Yeah. So didn't shoot the ball very efficiently, which has never been Darius Bazley's thing, but he's been rebounding the ball well, been playmaking a little bit more. So there should be a big opportunity for him in the absence of Lou Dort tonight as well. Yep. Okay. I think we've covered all the injuries for today. Hopefully those of you watching with us alongside at home are fully healthy and not nursing hangovers from the Super Bowl. We wish you all the best of luck in your games tonight. Myself and Gary Hartman will be behind the paywall tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern on establishedrun.com, the NBA premium DFS packages. Gary and I will just be continuing our conversations from hanging out and drinking Los Dos during the Super Bowl last night. Shout out to Jeremy Levine and the good old crew at Los Dos. That's why I'm not hungover because the Los Dos tequila just super, super pure and running right through the veins last night. So we'll be there 5 o'clock Eastern. We'll be back again in front of the paywall tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern with myself and Mike Gallagher. Make sure to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube page to get all the notifications whenever we go live. Make sure to continue to support this content by hitting or smashing that like button to make sure that we can continue to circulate this and provide that free content for you guys. So welcome to the beginning fully of an attentive NBA season with football out of the way. We look forward to carrying you the rest of the way. Enjoy the start of this week before the All-Star break, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern. Take care, everybody.